trying to do. She's trying to provoke us to think about our childhood, and therefore we are building that work around us and becoming it.
For me, it was always going to be about having a conversation with people about the themes in the work. The conversations that we were wanting to encompass were about mental health, mental illness, everything in between.
It was quite a miserable looking room, to be honest. I think we were just trying to make something of it, but we didn't know what to do with the space. So because of what Sarah and Julia were doing in terms of art and mental health, we thought that would be fitting perfectly with what Journeys is aiming to achieve in terms of removing the stigma of mental ill health.
For me, what's been interesting about it is it's moved beyond that model of just displaying the artist's work, and it's evolved, and it's been very interactive actually, hasn't it?
I think that the location of it above Journeys was interesting, actually having art about a subject matter located so closely with people working with the same subject matter within the building, and that I think is why I went back to the material that I used for the residency here. The experience of working my last performance with Breathe Gorf, which was in a disused Ely hospital.
It was a little bit off the wall, but then, you know, what is art? You know, it doesn't have to be prescribed like the art that you would see in an art gallery or something.
For the artists, they felt that they could make work here, think through what they were doing, and still have that connection with the world and, well, how is this relevant to the world outside and the everyday world outside as well. Some people chose not to have an exhibition and not to have people here, but to release it through the internet. Some people had workshops.
Here then, for people for whom the private space of the home has, for a multiplicity of reasons which intersect and pile up, failed to provide anything like a shelter, public space proper is a space of refuge, a place to go out of need, its suffering and need gone public. My interest then in this project is in rethinking the ways in which we commonly conceive of public and private spaces. Like the porcelain models you're looking at here, the relations and relationships, material and social, which produce what we might call shelters are fragile. They must be treated with care, and if you look closely, often include cracks and imperfections in what initially appears a smooth surface.
Certain epigenetic changes have now been linked with a number of disease states, such as depression, schizophrenia, and it may be as a consequence of early life events that are encoded by our epigenetic mark that these disease states arise.
There'd be weekends in which public could come in and get involved in some way.
The title, I think, yeah, hopefully suggests some kind of resilience or survival.
But they're not just
these
passive
things.
either.
Yeah, yeah.
They're exploring.
The people who are the experts are the people who have it.
For psychiatry, people's individual accounts and people expressing themselves about their experiences is all we have, actually. Yeah, and it's really, really important.
My proposal was based on the idea that the house itself was like a part of the human mind, or body, vessels, and neurons, or sort of I don't know, pipes within the human body.
It's this whole thing of leakage that's really quite predominant within your work as well. The voices, the spoken word and the audio, I know from having been in here when other people have been here, that they found that aspect of it really quite disconcerting. There is that sense of something that delights, but at the same time makes people feel slightly on edge. And then, one of the artists, it was very much about dialogue, and it was about dialogue with her mother.
Sort of central.
Let's have one last go. And then I'll start pounding.
Well, you can start pounding. That's alright, it takes ages.
There we are.
What, the sugar will bring out the flavour?
Well, what it'll do is take on the flavour, you see. The sugar will take on the... and really pound into it. I tell you what I'm going to do, Gail. I'm going to have a sort of wadge, a cushion of muslin in the bottom, so that it pushes it all up, and we might get
that's a good idea.
some of.
Well,
We
how will
might.
that work?
Got it? See, look, you must make it smooth for where, so that this cross shows.
Yeah, no, I think
All
it
right.
will. I think it
Okay.
will. Mark, if I hold the pole.
No,
Are
you
you-
do that. And I'll... There we are.
There it is.
I am no longer sure of who is exploring. Am I in search of myself, the truth? Or is it me, screaming quietly, robotically, flat and locked? Knowing the truth, but exploring the reality behind it? The more you think, the more a never-ending imagination takes its toll.
It was just about being. It was just about people, and the fact that we connect with each other in very different ways, and often from the outside, sometimes it's quite hard to connect to people in a very honest way. There's a lot of pressures out there.
And the same odd bits now.
You've done it in quite methodically.
I wasn't always like that. That's what my mental ill health has done for me.
You need to find you and courage.
Yeah.
If I can find the rest of these words at the bottom,
That's family.
then you can start building up from there, maybe.
The responders, by definition, would know that's how I've been defined as somebody with a mental health diagnosis, and by agreeing to take part in the project and being the responder, then you're already opening yourself up to that knowingly.
You know, if I hadn't have gone there as a responder, I wouldn't have gone there as someone with mental illness. There'd be too many social hurdles to overcome.
Art, for me, in the way it's been used, has been another perspective on something very difficult and complex, and a way of stimulating interest, discussion, a way of getting people who may not feel themselves to be particularly scientific to engage with some of these issues.
By the very nature, if we don't understand something, it either frustrates us or we turn away from it. Depending on where you are emotionally, you may reject it because you're not ready to emotionally hear that.
Science is very disciplined, it's very specialised, and in lots of ways people, certainly through their training, are very much encouraged to focus in a particular area, which is great and important. At the same time, I think having a wider idea of people's attitudes towards something, or being able to contextualise your particular area within a wider domain is important too.
As I say, I'm very mistrustful of the world of science when it comes to its decisions on how I should live my life. But I am respectful that science is a search for knowledge. But it seems to be a search of knowledge without emotion, and that art can bring that emotion into it. And sometimes just eliciting, an emotion from a viewer could actually help them begin to take the first step towards understanding. And I don't think that's a luxury that's afforded to science.
Certain artworks are very fine, very, very detailed, but I think they're often a commentary, a social commentary on the world as it is at that moment in time. And I think that's what a lot of the researchers are taken away from working with the art, in particular, obviously, in relation to mental health, public attitudes to mental health, clinical aspects of mental health, and not just the laboratory work that they might focus their work on.
For me, in mental health, it's about having that discussion, having that debate with people, and trying to get over my perspective, which is that these are real conditions and they're tractable problems, and actually doing research is something that is important, and it potentially will lead to real improvements for people who suffer with these conditions in years and generations to come.
There, I think, inevitably is always going to be a proportion of people that will be hidden away and stay hidden away.
I accept totally that it's almost impossible to engage with a community that doesn't often want to be found. If I was going to be running a project that was trying to engage with the people that were probably most needy of this work, I would be the first to say I think that's nigh on impossible. So you have to be very flexible and adaptable, but it doesn't mean you should ever stop trying. You should always offer that opportunity, because that's what Attic did. It offered the opportunity. Okay, so do I think Attic has been a success? That's a much bigger question than it seems, because for me personally it has been a success. It challenged me, it made me confront things within my own psyche about my own work, and I've seen that change in others. Seeing some of the responses from people that have viewed some of the work, then I see it has touched people. Has it changed society's attitude to mental illness? Then I don't think it has, but that would be a rather big ask for a project to manage to do in its first year.
Sometimes all you can do is bring people together. You can't necessarily control what's going to happen then. You just try to capture some of what did happen.